This Guy's Garage. Like and subscribe.
My first questions will be to Dr. Freeland. Dr. Freeland, are you appearing at our committee today on behalf of the psychiatric profession at large, or on behalf of a working group, or on behalf of yourself?
Thank you for that question. Just to restate, I am here on behalf of the Canadian Psychiatric Association, which is a national member association for Canadian psychiatrists and psychiatrists in training. My role with the CPA is I am chair of the board of directors, and I also co-chair our working group focused on medical assistance in dying.
Okay, but do you speak for all psychiatrists?
I'm speaking on behalf of the CPA, which represents our psychiatrist members. As a national member organization, we have approximately 50% of psychiatrists who are members of our association. That has been a very steady rate over the last number of years. And we've also been very pleased by an increase in our members of training in approximately 19% over the last year.
Thank you.
We were also...
Thank you.
Okay.
So you represent about half of Canadian psychiatrists. I wanted to know, you chaired a committee that studied Maid for the mentally disordered. And I understand that your committee stated in March 2020 that mentally disordered patients should have the same access to Maid as available to all patients. And you've restated that today in your testimony. Now, I understand that the CPA has never formally consulted with its members in the lead up to that position statement that was issued by the committee. Is that correct? Happy to explain our process for both position statements and how we've undertaken member consultations. The CPA routinely publishes position papers and statements on issues related to psychiatric practice, and we have a way of proceeding with that. Through our Maid working group, we did have a number of member consultations, which included, since 2016, the CPA has had member surveys. There's been an original time-limited task force, and we've had symposia. Doctor,
Yep.
I'm not asking you to explain exactly how the consultation process works. I just want to know, if there were consultations, formal consultations with your membership, has that membership actually given you a clear consensus that they want you to move forward with this?
Are you asking particularly in reference to the publishing of the position statement, which was published and then amended when Bill C7 came through, along with our discussion paper?
Yes, let's talk about firstly the policy statement, position statement that you issued.
Position statement. Yeah, the position statement. Our process for that would be for our professional standards and practice committee to develop something that's based on CPA policy. We actually did not take a position on the morality or ethics of Maid as it relates to mental illness, or whether or not mental illness should be part of that. But what we did was underscore the importance of not stigmatizing a group of people by virtue of their illness.
Yeah. Did your consultations actually result in you divining or discerning a consensus amongst your members that Maid was ready to be implemented for the mentally ill?
I think it's very well known that across all Canadian psychiatrists, and including within our membership in the CPA, there are people with different perspectives with respect to Maid for mental illness.
Okay, so there's no consensus.
As a member organization, we welcome healthy debate, which continues on.
All right.
Part of the work that we did was to develop...
That's all I need to know. So there's really no consensus within your profession at this point in time. Is that correct?
I think if you're asking about 100% consensus for some sort of intervention and issue for people with mental illness, I think it would not be unusual to consider that there's generally not consensus in many aspects of medicine.
Questions are to Dr. Gupta. Dr. Gupta, you said we're ready with respect to Maid and mental illness. I would submit that's tough to accept given what we've heard in the previous hour, in which we've heard there's no consensus amongst psychiatrists. Only 2% of psychiatrists have signed up for the curriculum program, and there aren't enough resources. But you say we're ready, really. Well, I would submit the heart of the issue, however, is the question of irremediability, whether someone can get better and whether that can be accurately predicted. Now, as you will recall, at page 40 of the expert report that was issued, that you chaired, it states, quote, there is limited knowledge about the long-term prognosis for many conditions, and it is difficult, if not impossible, for clinicians to make accurate predictions about the future for an individual patient. The evolution of an individual's mental disorder cannot be predicted as it can for certain types of cancers, end of quote. That report was issued in May of 2022. Has anything changed since May of 2022 with respect to that conclusion?
So if your question is there something different about mental disorders compared to other conditions that can currently access assisted dying now? No, that hasn't changed since May of 2022. And that was exactly the point the panel was making, that yes, there are these difficulties, but these difficulties exist in track 2 as well. And so if track 2 can go forward and people can be afforded appropriate protections under track 2, the same can occur for mental disorders.
It's not just a challenge, it's a criminal code prerequisite in order to qualify for Maid. And what you have said is that, and you've confirmed it tonight, that it is difficult, if not possible, to predict. And we heard testimony from experts when this committee last convened, including from Dr. Mark Senior, who said that the error rate for predicting irremediability could be anywhere from 2% to 95%. In other words, we're flying blind. So in the face of that, how can you say that we're ready?
Well, I can say that we're ready because we are doing these kinds of eligibility assessments for all kinds of complex patients, including patients that have comorbid mental disorders, where the mental disorder may play a significant role in motivating the request, that there are many medical conditions where prognostication is difficult, if not impossible, to borrow the same language of the expert panel report. And yet, we reason clinically about these cases in full respect of the criminal code requirements, because, as you know, no physician has been prosecuted and not a single successful college complaint has been made. So physicians and nurse practitioners are using these criteria to reason about cases when people have had, as my colleague Dr. Gamache said,
with respect, Dr. Gupta, I've given you some time to answer it, and I think you've made my point that we're not ready, not in the face of that. I would just ask, would you agree that suicidality is often a symptom of mental illness?
I would say that it is one of the criteria of a small number of specific conditions.
At page 9 of the Health Canada Advice to the Profession, Medical Assistance in Dying, which you helped write, it states, Maid eligibility assessments must not be undertaken in circumstances of acute suicidality. What about in cases of chronic suicidality? Why is that missing from your advice to the profession?
Well, precisely because some people with mental disorders, a very small number, I think, are going to be able to make a capable, informed decision to access Maid, despite the fact that they may have also struggled with suicidal thinking over the course of their lives. And this is already the case because people make Maid requests now who may have struggled with suicidal thinking over the course of their lives.
How much time?
15 seconds.